Hi everyone. I have been meaning to make a video like this for a long time now. Actually, I have recorded it several times within the past few years. I've never been comfortable with my voice, but I think that after streaming for a while and people complimenting my voice as a cute radio voice boosted my confidence in making this instead of throwing it away into the recycle bin. So, let's get started with my top 10 favorite anime. Or, that is what I should be saying. Instead, I want to start by saying these are my personal favorites. Not ones I think are the best, but ones I heavily enjoy. Some of the series may be well known, while some may be under the radar. There will be spoilers for some series, so be warned now. Before starting my list, I want to mention some I felt that needed to be on the list, but didn't make it for certain reasons. So here are some honorable mentions. First up is Otoboku, also known as Otome wa Boku ni Koishiteru, which loosely translates to The Maidens Are Falling for Me. I really wanted to place this on my list, but there are many other series I enjoyed far more than Otoboku. The series revolves around Mizuho, who has to transfer to an all-girls school to fulfill his deceased grandfather's final wish, but the problem is that Mizuho is a boy. Hilarity ensues and all good Yuri madness emerges. The main reason I want to put this series on the list is because it was the first actual anime series I watched. I did watch series like Pokemon and Cardcaptor Sakura when I was young, but this series was the first quote-unquote official one. When I was struggling with gender identity issues, I searched for videos and series that featured trans people like me. Most of it was documentaries. This one appeared deep within the search while it was airing, mind you, and I only watched the first 4 episodes at the time. However, I fell in love with it because I could relate to with what I was feeling. Even though I totally disregarded the fact it wasn't about someone who is transgender, but about someone who cross-dresses. I hear the sequel focuses on a protagonist who is similar to someone that is transgender though. The next honorable mention is Kemeko Deluxe. You're probably asking, why is this anime even on this list? Yes, one of, if not the most expensive anime franchises is on this list. When I say most expensive, I don't say it is of high quality, but a bunch of money was shoveled into its development. As to why I enjoy the series, it was something I watched just for the hell of it. I eventually found the series to be hilarious. The series follows Kobayashi Sanpeita, who has an object inside him that many people want. A girl appears called Kemeko, who tries to protect him from evil hands. This seems like a cliched story, but it relies heavily on humor. There are moments where it can be serious, but most of it is just fun with the characters. I also love the different character designs. It reminds me of Masamune-kun's Revenge and the game Elsword. It is a cute, thick chibi style. Because of the series, I support the creators of the series, Ashita no Kyoka-san and Miyamoto-san Honki de Yamete Kudasai. The final honorable mention is Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. The main reason this series isn't on the list is because it hasn't finished. It is currently nearing its halfway point of the series, at least according to how the director is planning it, and it keeps getting better and better. I did play the card game when I was younger, but I moved away from it after GX and started focusing on life. I kept checking the series every now and then, but nothing really intrigued me. Then comes Arc 5, where I thought, this series is surely going downhill fast. I watched the first 2 episodes for curiosity, and I fell in love with it. The series focuses on Yuya, the son of popular entertainment duelist Yusho, that tries to follow in his father's footsteps after mysteriously disappearing 3 years before the series start. He eventually creates a new summoning technique called pendulum summoning, probably one of the most broken things I've ever seen so far, but he eventually gets caught up in something. That something is what makes the series so engaging. It is a dimensional war where the different dimensions focus on the various summoning techniques of fusion, synchro, and Xyz. Not only that, the characters are really interesting. Yuya seemed to be some goofy kid at first, but then he turns out to have his own drama, and when things get serious, he doesn't mess around when he knows what is on the line. The female characters in the series are strong, especially Yuya's childhood friend Yuzu, who seems to be the key to activating plot points throughout the series. All the characters have their own motifs and backstories that makes the series amazing, such as Serena, who is my favorite. With a beautiful soundtrack and well-composed scenes, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 would be on my top 10 list once the series finishes. Now, on to my top 10 favorite anime of all time. On to number 10 is, well, there are two here. Those series are Gujabu and Achikochi. These two are both at number 10 because they're very similar in nature as they're both gag anime. First up is Gujabu, which follows Kyoro's kidnapping into the Good Job Club. The club is basically a club of randomness. They can do whatever they want. However, the club consists mostly of girls such as Mao, Shionji, Megumi, and Kirara. Their agenda? To make Kyoro's life as stressed as possible. Seriously, all they do is pick on him and tease him. However, that is why it is so funny. He is easy to fool, where you feel sorry for him, but also enjoy what he's going through. These girls aren't being cruel, but are having harmless fun with him. Surprisingly, they grow to bond over this towards the end of the series, and it is a bit sad at the end. The series animation is okay, but not amazing. It is well by Dogakobo standards, the studio that produced the series. You may see some other series from the studio. Back to the series, it is just straight up fun. Some jokes may not be funny, but seeing the interactions between the characters is just amazing. So amazing, I actually bought the entire series on Blu-ray from Japan. Achikochi, on the other hand, has a bit of romance. The series follows Tsumiki, a shy tsundere with a cat-like personality who is in love with the ever-popular Iyo. They have classmates to join them in their antics, but the series relies heavily on jokes between Tsumiki and Iyo, as well as the small moments. One thing I like about Achikochi is it knows when to take its time with the love scene between the two. It feels natural for them to be together. The animation was well for a gag series, probably a bit more expensive than usual, but it is well done. The character designs are cute and different from what I'm used to seeing. Something else to note is the soundtrack. It isn't amazing, but matches the series flawlessly. There are some pieces I really enjoyed, such as one that occurs when the wild scenes pop up. However, Achikochi's top reason for being on my list is that in my story that I've been writing for several years now, the protagonist's interactions are very similar to that of Tsumiki and Iyo. So, if you enjoy a short gag anime with memorable moments, Gujabu and Achikochi are there for you. Coming in at number 9 is Galilei Donna. The series follows the Ferrari sisters, who are descendants of Galileo Galilei, as they take a trip around the world to find a mechanism Galileo hid that could solve an energy shortage going on at the time. But they are chased down by sky pirates and an evil organization. When I first watched the series, there are two things I enjoyed. The first is that it took a current world problem that we are currently facing and create a plot that revolved around it in the somewhat near future. It shows what could happen with a large company making a monopoly off of energy resources and see how people fight over it, such as the Sky Pirates. Something that stood out to me was the main cast of characters, except two, are all from wealthy families. Yet the Ferrari sisters are thrown into an impoverished environment to see the drastic effects that people suffer from this shortage. The other thing I liked about the series was it focuses on the bonds between the sisters. They live their lives separately, yet they stay connected. Hozuki lives with her dad, Kazuki lives with her mother, and Hazuki lives on her own. It displays that no matter where they are or how they live their lives, they will always be sisters. And something happens near the end of the series to help them define what a sister means, which I really enjoyed. Sadly, this series is so great, but so low on my list. I really enjoyed it, but the main reason is that the series is a composition mess. You can see the series slowly progress in the first half of the series, but then accelerate into trying to reach the end. Sadly, the series is 11 episodes long, but according to Yasunori Umetsu, the director, the series was planned to be a 2-core series, which is about 22 to 26 episodes. However, Aniplex ordered 11 episodes. Although, in my opinion, it seemed they cut the order down to 11 episodes halfway through production from the looks of it. Still, it is a great series to enjoy despite the fact of how it was handled behind the scenes. Next, at number 8, is Noragami. Yato is a war god attempting to build his own shrine. After being saved by a human named Hyori, she turns into a half-phantom and is dragged into a world between the humans and the gods, where she is both living and dead. Yato eventually makes a contract with a character called Yukine to become his regalia, a soul that can transform into a weapon and has to struggle being a guide for Yukine. A reason I heavily enjoy this series is because it knows when to balance its humor and its drama. It doesn't do an immediate segue from one scene to another that catches you off guard, but smoothly transitions to it. Noragami may have a sense of dark humor, but that is what makes it so intriguing. Even though it can be dark at times, it is handled well to either make you laugh or pull your heartstrings. Something else I love is how Hyori is such a strong character. She may have stereotypical qualities that most female characters do, but when it involves helping or saving someone, she often risks her own life to protect them to such drastic lengths that makes me want to watch her more. Yato is another great character with his aspiration of becoming a full-fledged god. It always piques my curiosity as to how other gods would accept someone like him, from how he speaks with them about doing things when you learn more about his past. The anime original ending was a bit of a letdown, sadly, but it did close the series nicely, yet not enough to do it justice. I do want to commend Studio Bones for animating and scoring the series so nicely, as it is very beautiful to watch and listen to. Here's hoping to a great second season this fall. At number 7 is a series I recently finished and I fell in love with. I became interested in the series when I heard about it and watched the opening. I just adore a series about classical music, which is why Your Lie in April is one of my favorite series. The series follows the Rima Kosei, a pianist prodigy that appears to be emotionless and robotic because of his mother's instructions. After the death of his mother, he struggles to play the piano once again because he can't hear the notes played from the keys anymore. That all changes when he meets a girl under the swirling cherry blossoms called Kaori, who starts to ignite his will to play the piano once again. First off, I want to commend the visuals of the series and its animation. I always enjoyed this pastel-like feel to the series that transferred over from Horo Musico, which some people who worked on that series also works on Your Lie in April. The thing I heavily enjoyed about the series was the characters and their treatment towards music. Personally, I played the oboe for several years, and this sort of led to my attachment to classical music that I still carry to this day. I loved how they conveyed Kosei suffering from not being able to hear the notes, like he was drowning in water with nothing emerging. It was very creative and well done. Seeing Kaori, though, was very suffering for me. She loved music and worked hard to help Kosei, and I heavily enjoyed seeing her, but she kept putting a faux mask until the end. I think if she was honest, it would have been better, but then maybe it wouldn't have because of the different type of attachments to her in both scenarios, and that would result in drastically different endings. Still, Your Lie in April is a marvelous series. I love all the nods and themes to the various composers and music introduced. Truly, if you are to become a great musician, then you must lose something in return. Number 6 on my list is a bit of an odd pick. It is the mahjong series Saki. The series follows Mia Nagasaki, an average mahjong player that finds it a bit painful to play because of her sister and mother leaving her. Yet we find out that Saki is a beast at mahjong, which can always result in her score being positive -0, as to not upset others around her. The school's mahjong team finds out about this when she plays with them and enlists her as a member to help them go to the national mahjong tournament. The series is one that blew my expectations. I thought it was going to be cute girls doing cute things like many other series have done. While that is partially true, Saki does it differently in a good way. The characters each have their own stories as to why they like mahjong. While most of the characters are that they were taught about from an elder or they were used to fill a vacant spot on the team, the ones that stood out can be really deep, especially Saki's that is still unraveling. Not only that, the studio that separated from Gonzo knows how to make mahjong look amazing. The soundtrack and animation makes it seem so badass you can't help but stare in awe. Sure, the CGI for some scenes is absurd and noticeably okay, but when they do hand-drawn animation to show off a character's amazing skill during an important part with the score blazing in the background, I can't help but love it. Like Saki's Rinshan Kaiho, or when Shuzuno stops Ohoshi's ability, those scenes were just amazing to watch. I really want to call this a sports anime that I love, and that is one of the reasons that I can enjoy such sports anime such as Yowamushi Pedal, but some people are calling it a competition game anime, so I guess it would be up for your interpretation as to what a sports anime is. Still, with a large cast to follow and amazing execution of scenes with a heart-pounding soundtrack, Saki is one of my favorite series that I can't stop fawning over. Now that we have reached the midpoint of my list, I can start buzzing about series. At number 5 is Hyouka. The series follows Araki Hotaru that lives anything but a rose-colored life. He starts to attend a new school and receives a letter from his older sister that is away on a trip to join a classics club to prevent it from disbanding. There, he meets Chitanda Eru, a girl who has a high case of curiosity. Rounding off the cast is Hotaru's friend Satoshi and a childhood friend Mayaka. Together, as a classics club, they solve mysteries around their school and city, using Araki's very observant behavior to determine what happened in the mystery. I don't want to give too much away, but this series has multiple mysteries that are addicting to watch, especially the cultural festival arc. The characters are captivating as you never want to let your eyes off them for a second just in case you miss something crucial. What surprised me is the amount of development the characters go through, although most of it is towards the ending of the series, as it felt genuine as these 4 teenagers progress through life. Something else to note is that this series is gorgeous. Since it is from KyoAni, you know they're stepping up their game in the animation department, but visually it is just speechless. They transport the characters into different scenes in their minds to display what they are thinking while going through the mystery, mostly from Hotaru's perspective. These extravagant scenes only play a larger part when you see that is how they interpret the other characters' actions. The soundtrack is beautiful as well. The composer captures the series' tone and animation perfectly. The series never takes itself too seriously, but casually allows the viewer to dissect the series of how they see fit by laying tiny clues in the series. At the same time, the characters are growing with their own ordeals to make the series something one to behold. Sadly, there is no English dub yet, but I hope to God someone licenses it stateside since I want to throw money at this beautiful piece of art. Before I state what my next favorite is, I want to give a bit of a backstory. For my number 1 favorite series and number 4 are very similar in a way. They were both used as an outlet for a certain reason that I'll touch upon in number 1. However, at this time I watched number 1, I found out about this thing called manga. 2 manga series I started to read to help me cope were Siren, a series that desperately needed an anime since I read it as it started publishing to its end, and my number 4 pick, The World God Only Knows. Hopefully one day I can talk about why I love these 2 manga, but today is about the anime series. This series is a peculiar one as it follows Kemeko, a self-proclaimed god of conquest that can capture any girl's heart. Well, in games at least. A dumbfounded devil called Elsie learns of his capabilities and makes him sign a contract with her. Hilarity ensues as this game tries to make real girls fall for him. This is what the series relies on heavily with each arc Keima and Elsie go through. They target a girl, make them fall for Keima, capture the loose soul, and make the girl lose all memories of the conquest. The thing is that the characters are purposely based off stereotypes you would find in many harem anime series and games, such as the athlete, the tsundere, and the shy bookworm. That is why the series is funny, because it pokes fun at the stereotypes that Keima tries to conquer by predicting everything, but also throwing some curveballs in there to help develop the characters a bit from being straight up paper cutouts. I want to say that the character designs didn't mesh with me at first, but they did grow on me. The animation is well for what it does and makes it enjoyable. The Japanese voice cast is amazing with their characters, and to a certain extent, so is the English one like Keima, Elsie, Hakuwa, and Shiori. Although the writing in the 3rd season could be forgotten, regardless, The World Only Knows is a series I rewatch often because of its huge enjoyment factor to me, and it will never get old. The 3rd series on my list is something many people are familiar with. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya was my 2nd series I started to watch, and the 1st I ever purchased. The series follows Kyon, a typical high schooler living an everyday life until he meets Haruhi Suzumiya on his first day at his new school. He eventually learns she has a screw loose, but it turns out that the universe revolves around her and meets with people she thought up, a time traveler, an esper, and an alien. They all have one goal, and that is to keep Haruhi Suzumiya happy until Kyon enters the scene, a sort of an enigma as to why he is involved with them. If Otoboku was a series that helped me understand myself through anime, I would put Haruhi as a series that blew my mind as to what anime series could do. When I saw the opening and addicting ending, I thought it was going to be about a fun school life series, but boy was I wrong. It is a complex science fiction series with an interesting plot and memorable characters. You would normally think the protagonist, Kyon, which the series follows from his perspective, would be the omnipotent one, but instead he has to cater to Haruhi's demands. He is the sane one of the bunch and tries to prevent most of the wacky stuff happening. It is interesting to see how the series plays out, especially with the hidden themes lying underneath the series. As the series from KyoAni, it was animated flawlessly and done spectacularly well. I want to give high props to the English dub cast, as it was very enjoyable to listen to and probably one of my favorite dubs ever. I'll talk more about the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, but that might be for a later list of my top 10 favorite anime movies. The penultimate series on this list is Love Live! School Idol Project. The series revolves around 9 girls who form an idol group to become school idols to compete in a competition called Love Live! In hopes of gaining enough attention to attract new students to prevent the closing of their school. If you have seen any of my past haul videos, or stuff I do on my stream, or things I post on Facebook, you know that I love Love Live! This is a series I have loved for a long time. Go back 4 years ago, where I was perusing Anime News Network and I found an article about the newest Love Live! Music video, Natsuuro Egaore 1-2 Jump, being previewed. It was love at first sight, and I wanted to smuggle Nico-chan to the States and cuddle her. She was so cute that I couldn't stop being addicted to her. I eventually learned an anime series was in production for 2013, so I eagerly awaited for that day while listening to the newest music videos and character songs that emerged. The first season of the anime was amazing. It kept raising the series of awesomeness each episode, until it sadly spiraled downhill in the last 2 or 3 episodes. Then a second season was announced, and that just propelled the series even further with how amazing it is. The characters are likable and relatable. They each have their own personalities that set them apart, but even though they are different, they all come together for one cause and love each other. That is something I liked about the series. Love Live! Showed that the strong bonds of 9 girls as if they were an inseparable family. The characters were captivating to watch, with beautiful soundtrack and amazing songs behind them. Animation is just as amazing to watch. Sure, the CGI dancing was a bit weird, but it meshed well with the world they dance in, and it wasn't too distracting like some other series like Saki. This was my first idol series, and I will continue to love it no matter what. I am still addicted to it. With so much money used on merchandise, I think I might have a problem. Still, Nico is my happy drug, and Nikomaki is my ship. Nikomaki OTP. We finally made it. My favorite anime of all time that transcends the heavens and the universe is one that is questionable. So questionable that you're probably thinking, what the hell is wrong with you, Grace? Words cannot describe my love for myself, yourself. Now hold on. Put those pitchforks away and let me explain myself. The myself, yourself plot goes a little like this for those that have not watched it yet. Generic anime protagonist that allows the viewers to place themselves in his shoes, where he returns to his old hometown after moving away several years ago. He reunites with friends, old and new alike, where he struggles to find out all the events that happened to him in the years he was gone, while flirting with a plethora of girls. Basically, every harem anime plot ever, but just like Twilight. At this point, I can bet you're thinking, why do you like that boring trash? Oh my god, you mentioned Twilight? You must love it, you goddamn twihard. Where's Madoka Magica or Attack on Titan, you hipster trash? Personally, this series is what got me into anime. Yes, Otoboku was what I started watching as my first anime series ever, and sure, series like Madoka Magica and Attack on Titan might have far more interesting plot lines and characters than Myself Yourself, but you know what? That doesn't matter to me. Myself Yourself means a lot to me because it is memorable and helped me when I needed it to propel me into the anime scene. Flashback several years ago when I was in middle school, I was beginning to get bullied for being transgender, and I looked for an outlet to reduce the pain. Gaming was one way to do it, but I found anime like Otoboku to help me understand what I was dealing with, and eventually watched another series called The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. This started to get me interested in anime, and then I started to watch 3 series as they aired in the fall of 2007. The Kappa 2, Goshisu-sama, Ninomiya-kun, and Myself Yourself. The latter is what stuck with me, because even though the characters were bland as hell, the plot was total dreck, and the animation was piss poor, I could relate to the events of the characters that they were going through at the time. This series revolves heavily on bullying and suicide. While I personally am not one to commit suicide because I loathe the concept of death, I could relate with what the characters were going through. In my opinion, I believe watching anime is an experience with what you're feeling with at the time, and that is why Myself Yourself is my favorite show of all time. I can remember scenes at random moments in my life that clung to me, like the mailbox scene, the farewell scene, the arsonist scene, and the 10-year time skip scene, which is total bullshit. But I digress. There is so much more to the series that I love. The character designs are weird, but I like them, and they're tolerable. The musical score is like a waterfall caressing your ear. It is just so beautiful to listen to. Evergreen is hands down my favorite piece of the soundtrack. There's just so much more, like the instrumental of Ivy, which is what plays with every single dramatic scene in the series, which is a bit tiring, but it's still amazing. Yet, I wouldn't have liked it as much if I could not relate to it with what I was going through at the time. If I did not, it would probably be total trash like I mentioned before. It is definitely a guilty pleasure of mine, but it is my favorite. There's just so much more I could talk about the series. I know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, like how the producer is Makoto Ito, aka the one who did School Days. That explains so much of why the ending is all over the freaking place of suicidal thoughts, incest, lesbian drama, adultery, and abuse, and more. Yeah, the plot was garbage, especially compared to the games, where the characters made sense. It seems Dogakobo, by the way, my favorite studio of all time, because of the series they do like Myself Yourself, Yuru Yuri, and Good Job Boo, didn't know what to do with their first television anime series ever, as the games were delayed. So they would likely be unsure of what the game was about besides a general synopsis of it. Like in the game, Nanaka and Asami are cousins, and that's why Asami is resentful towards the world, because people always concern over Nanaka instead of her. She didn't resent it because of Shuri dumping her or anything, although I will give the anime props for giving the arsonist an identity that I could get behind, because the game's arsonist didn't have an identity, yet was someone who was alive still and tried to set Nanaka's house on fire again. That doesn't make sense, but that's besides the point. However, the game was a great visual novel that had so much potential, but it was somewhat ruined when it went to anime production. What surprised me the most is that despite the characters being bland as hell, is that it has an all-star cast of seiyuu from the visual novel, and they acted really well for the series to give the characters some type of personality that they could do with. I could feel their emotions exploding from their performance despite the scenes being awkwardly presented to us. So, do I hate Myself Yourself after I ranted about it? No. As I said before, it helped me when I needed it. I love it for not only that, but so much more that I can go on about. Looking back at it, it does grind my gears as to how it lost so much potential, but it did tackle some subjects that people wouldn't even try to do back then when the series premiered. I think the producers and director knew how bad the series was as it progressed through production, but they tried to break away from many other harem series just like the games. Like in the games, there's no lewd scenes and the focus is on the characters themselves, whereas other harem anime focuses on the lewd scenes. Still, minus all the flaws it carries, Myself Yourself is, and always will be, my favorite anime of all time. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.